Hey guys, welcome back. So today for Tutorial Tuesday, I have sort of a first impression slash review slash tutorial for you guys. It's kind of an impromptu video because I got a package today from Sephora a lot earlier than expected. So I was really excited to dive in and test it out for you guys and show you guys what I got. So if you're interested in seeing what I received today and my first impressions on it, then please keep on watching. So actually I wasn't expecting these until the end of the week, but they actually came, what's today, Monday? So they actually came 5 days early. But I ordered the Huda Beauty Obsessions mini palettes. Now I'm not gonna lie, I was very underwhelmed when I opened the box because I was expecting to see a little bit bigger boxes. I literally had to search through all the bubble wrap, the receipt, all the samples to just find these 3 palettes. So that was kind of underwhelming. I was expecting, like I said, I was expecting them to be a little bit bigger, but they are called mini palettes, so I guess I should have done my research first. But I picked up 3 out of the 4 palettes. So they all come in a little clear sleeve like this. And I picked up the Warm Brown Obsessions, which looks like this. Then I got the Mauve Obsessions, which looks like this. And then this one I have already opened and swatched because I did go live on Facebook to swatch these ones, and this is the one they wanted me to swatch. But this one is the Smokey Obsessions. I mean, they're really pretty colors. So I'm going to start with the Smokey Obsessions and I'll do swatches for you guys. So here are all of the colors. The black is kind of patchy. It's not very pigmented. The tan shade next to it, which blends in with my skin tone, that one's all right. And all of the metallics and shimmers, they're really pretty. But it's the mattes, at least in this palette, that kind of are disappointing. But I don't base my judgment on a palette solely on swatching because, you know, a swatch can look a whole lot different than an actual application will. So after I'm done swatching all these palettes for you, I will do a tutorial. So now I'm going to do the Mauve Obsessions one. So here are the Mauve Obsessions swatches. These ones are a lot better. I like the mattes better in this one. The 2 deeper mattes in this palette still seem a little bit patchy, like the matte black one and the smoky one. So like I said, we'll just have to play with them on the eyes and see. Across the board so far between those 2 palettes, the shimmers have been on point. And then the last one I'm going to swatch is the Warm Brown Obsessions. This one's really pretty, perfect for fall. This one's not bad either. Again, with the darker shades, it seems like they're a little bit patchy, but I feel like they're a little bit better than the Smoky palette. Like I said, they're just swatches, so the real deciding factor is how they apply on the eyes. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to try and dip into each of them, at least one color, and try to create a look for you guys. So like I said, across the board, the shimmers have been the best. The mattes have been kind of hit and miss, especially the darker ones. They seem a little patchy, but I'm going to try them on the eyes before I make a final decision on whether I think they're worth it or not. So let's get on to the tutorial. I already have my base on, as you guys can see. So I'm just going to re-prime my lids since I've had this makeup on pretty much all day. Just in case there's any fallout, you guys know the drill. I'm just going to place a layer of bake under my eyes. So the first color I'm going to dig into is this tan shade in the Smoky Obsessions palette. I'm going to place that all over my crease and slightly above, just like I typically would. So it's actually blending out pretty nicely and applying pretty smoothly. I'm not noticing any skipping or anything, and it's coming off a lot darker on my skin than it does on in the swatch or in the palette, which is again why I said you kind of just have to take swatches with a grain of salt because they don't always relate the same way onto the eye once you use them. So far so good. So now I'm going to go into this shade in the Warm Brown Obsessions palette. With the same brush, I'm going to blend that into the crease as well. So while I'm here, you guys don't always forget to highlight my brow bone. There are two matte cream shades, and one of them is in the Warm Brown Obsessions palette. The other one is in the Mauve Obsessions palette. I'm going to take this one from the Mauve Obsessions palette. And so far, none of the three shades I've used has given me a lot of kickback yet. I did notice a little bit when I was swatching them, but I mean, they have the average amount of kickback. I'm going to go back to the Smokey palette. I'm going to take my Morphe M576. I'm going to go into this brown shade down here. That one has a little bit of more kickback than the lighter shades. And I'm just going to place that directly into the crease. So again, that blended on pretty nicely. I'm not noticing any patchiness or skipping, which is good. So I want to dig into this Mauve Obsessions palette because I think this was my favorite of all of them. I'm just going to take this Sigma E25. Let's go into the shade right here. That one had more kickback than the rest that I've noticed. I'm just gonna blend that into the crease as well. This might not be the prettiest look I create. I just wanna be able to try as many of these shadows out as I can to see how well they work. It's turning out to be a really cool tone look. I'm just gonna go in and take this shade again and blend out that crease. Then I'm gonna go into the Warm Brown shade and take this purpley shade. It does have a good amount of kickback. I'm not noticing a lot of fallout on my under eyes, so that's good. Now for the lid color. That's one thing that I know that I really like in all these palettes are all the metallic, foiled, and shimmery shades. So I think we're going to do a halo eye, and I'm going to go in with this large shader brush from Sigma, the E60. And I'm going to go in to the shade in the Mauve palette. I'm going to place it on the inner and outer corners. It's not showing up as pigmented as the other shades I've been using because it looks a lot darker in the pan than what is translating on my eyelid. Let me try a different brush. I'm going to go in with a different brush and try that shade again. It's a little bit better. Alright, I'm going to go into this deep cranberry shade. I'm going to place that just over where I put that purple on the inner and outer corners. It has like zero pigment. Is it me? Am I crazy? Like, you're really going to have to build up that shade if you want to use it, because that's how it's coming off the brush onto the skin. But this is how dark it is in the palette, and you would think it'd have more pigment and it'd be a little bit darker. So I'm just going to try to blend out that crease. And I'm going to go into this shade right here. It looks like that. I'm just going to pat that in the center of the lid. This is very chunky, and I am getting a lot of fallout from it. The reason I'm using my finger with this shimmery shade, this metallic shade, is because she always recommended with her textured shadows in her rose gold and her desert dusk palette that they work best with fingers. So I assumed even if they're not the same formula as the textured shadows in those other palettes that it'd work the same, but I'm feeling I'm having to work a lot harder to get the pigmentation out of this than I wanted, and I'm getting a lot of fallout from it as well. So what I'm going to try to do, since using it on my finger didn't work, is I'm going to take this double-ended Urban Decay brush. I'm just going to clean it off of my shadow switch. I'm going to go in with my Urban Decay All-Nighter. This is what I like to do with shimmers, is go in with a flat paddle brush like this and spray it with setting spray or Fix Plus. I just have my All-Nighter right next to me. And I'm going to see if it works any better if I use that, if I use a wet brush into this shade. Still not picking up a lot. I'm just going to try patting that on the lid. The other thing I like to do with shimmers too is put down a base, either like a glitter glue or concealer or something sticky for it to stick to. I feel like that helped a little bit. Can you guys see a difference between this eye and this eye? This is the one that is just with my finger, and this eye is with a wet brush. So that looks a lot better. It's so chunky, I'm getting flakes in my eyes, which is really irritating them. So if you have contacts, I just be careful of that, because that is one thing with all of these these glittery, shimmery shades is they are really flaky. I'm going to go back into this shade and try to build up the inner and outer corner some more. It's not as precise as I like, but it's packing the color on a lot nicer. So I'm just going to take the end of that Urban Decay brush that I used, and I'm going to try to blend everything out. Try to connect the inner and outer corner in the crease. Just to see how well this color works, I'm going to go into this shade right here. I'm going to blend that into the crease to warm it up a little bit. I feel like my crease is getting kind of muddy. We're just gonna move on. I'm gonna dip, since I used a lot of the warm brown and the mauve palettes, I'm gonna put those away. And I'm gonna dip into the Smokey palette. I'm gonna take this angled brush. I'm gonna go into this matte black and try to use it as a liner and see how that works. It's definitely coming off more pigmented than it did in the swatch. That's what it looks like with the brush. So I'm going to take this detailed brush from Real Technique. I'm going to go into this shade right here. I'm going to place that on the inner corner. I'm going to see if it intensifies it by spraying it with my Urban Decay. Here, can you tell the difference? This is the one where I sprayed the brush. This one is the one where I didn't. See how much this one pops out more than this one does? Okay, so now I'm going to go back into the Mauve palette just to tie the whole look together. And I'm going to take this Sigma E20 and I'm going to go into this shade. Actually, I'm going to take this both of these shades. I'm going to buff that on the lower lash line. I'm going to take this pencil brush from Morphe, it's the E36, and I'm going to go back into this shade from the warm brown palette. I'm just going to buff out that lower lash line. Okay, so I think that is it for the look. I'm going to throw on some mascara and I will be back to give you my final thoughts. Okay, so real quick before I give you my final thoughts on these products, I just want to let you know that each of these palettes, they do have 4 varieties. Each of these palettes are $27. They each weigh 0.35 ounces. Each individual pan of shadow weighs 0.05 ounces, which equals up to about half the weight of the full-size Huda Beauty palettes. And it's half the price. So, I mean, it makes sense, you know, half the weight, half the price. For me personally, these palettes aren't terrible. I mean, as you guys saw, I had to work with them a little bit, but that's not necessarily always a bad thing. Like I said in my swatches, just because it swatches weird doesn't mean it's going to translate on the eye weird. So I like to show you guys both. That way you can get a good idea of how well the palettes work or don't work. And there was hits and misses in each one of them. You know, the darker shades in each palette seem to be a lot harder to work with and less pigmented. The lighter shades blended beautifully and went on nice and pigmented. All the shimmer shades in each of the palettes are gorgeous and they all are very pigmented, but they all do flake quite a bit. So I would just be forewarned of that. I know a lot of people, if you wear contacts, it could be a really big issue if you get it in your eyes. I don't wear contacts and I got it in my eyes, and right now my eyes are itching and burning because I feel like there's like a rock inside my eye. So overall, I'm not going to say these are bad palettes, but for me personally, I would rather splurge and buy either the Desert Dusk or the Rose Gold palette rather than these palettes, unless there's only one of these palettes that you're interested in. Because I feel like each of these palettes can be found in one of the other 2 larger palettes that she has. So again, if you like each of these palettes, I would definitely get either the Rose Gold edition or the Desert Dusk edition. But if there's just one palette that you like if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick this Mauve one because it's my favorite. I think it's the prettiest, and the darker shades, yes, they were a little hard to work with, but they weren't anything that was gonna be like a make or break for me because the rest of the shades in the palette are really nice. So if I have to work a little bit harder on extra shades, I don't mind doing that. But I mean, overall, I can't say that they're the best palettes I've purchased, but I also can't say that they're the worst palettes I purchased. It's just all personal preference. Just remember, we're all different. So what might work for me might not work for you. So everyone will like different things out of everything. So, you know, just take this review as with a grain of salt because like I said, they're not terrible palettes. So would I recommend that you guys spend your money on this? Yes and no. If you like a specific palette, then yes. But if you like a little bit of each one, then honestly, I have the Rose Gold palette right here next to me, and a lot of these shades are very similar to these three palettes put together. So I would personally just splurge on the bigger palette as opposed to getting these three individual palettes because I believe I spent around $85 for three of these, and her larger palette is only $65. So again, that's all personal preference. I'm kind of stuck in between. I feel like I need to play with them more and kind of dive into each individual palette by itself. But as far as first impression wise, I think I would probably end up returning 2 out of 3 palettes and just be keeping the Mauve palette because again, like I said, this one is my favorite. As far as blendability and things like that, they all blended really, really well. I just found that, you know, again, the darker shades are a little bit harder to work with. Some of them, swatching them, they're a little patchy, but putting them on the eye, they go on really well and they don't skip or anything like that. But you do have to take a little bit of extra time and effort to get that pigmentation intensity that you want. So if you've been wanting to try one of the bigger palettes but just can't afford it or don't want to drop that kind of money before in case you don't like it, then I'd say this would be good options. I think if you just want kind of an introduction to her brand, I think these would be good ideas. Again, if I had to recommend just one of these palettes, I would definitely recommend the Mauve one. I think it's the prettiest. But yeah, I think that is it for this tutorial slash review slash first impressions. I just want to remind you that I am doing a giveaway right now. It is running until Thanksgiving Day and it ends that day at midnight. I'll put a card up here for you guys to click on, and I'll also leave it in the description down below. There could potentially be 2 winners in that giveaway. So make sure you head on over to that other video, check it out, and see what the prizes are going to be. And I think that is all I have for you guys. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button down below. So subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and I will see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye guys!